One time a young boy went walking in the mountains. It was a beautiful day. He walked along, breathing in the fresh smells of the forest, listening to the birds singing. And then he heard a tiny voice crying out, "Help! Set me free!" The boy looked around and he saw a bottle wedged in among the roots of a tree. And inside the bottle there was a tiny man, about as big as a lizard. He had pressed his face against the side of the bottle. He was begging to be set free. Well, this boy was a kind-hearted boy. He felt sorry for the little man. And besides, he was curious. He wanted to learn more about him. So he pulled the bottle from among the roots. He pulled out the stopper. And the tiny man climbed from the bottle. He stretched his arms and he stretched his legs, and he started to grow. Soon he was as tall as the boy himself. And then he was as tall as the boy's father. The tiny man kept growing and growing until he had become a giant. He was as tall as the trees growing there in the forest. And the giant gave a laugh that was so loud it shook the bird's nests out of the trees. And then he said, "Now I'll take you home and cook you for my supper." And the boy stomped his foot. He said, "That's not fair." And the giant just grinned and said, "I don't care." They started arguing. The boy said, "I did something kind for you, and now you want to pay me back with something evil." The giant told him, "You foolish boy, that is the way of the world. People always repay kindness with evil." The boy said, "That's what you say, but we should let someone else decide. Someone who is wiser and more powerful than either of us." The giant told him, "That's a waste of time. But if you insist, we will let the wind decide who has traveled farther and seen more than the wind." So the boy and the giant traveled to the head of the valley, to where the wind had its home. The boy said, "Wind, I set this giant free when he was trapped inside a bottle, and now he wants to eat me for his supper. And that's not fair." And the giant said, "And I don't care. Wind, tell this boy, people always repay kindness with evil." The wind said, "I am good to the people. I cool them, I refresh them, I push rain clouds their way. But they choke me with ugly smoke and dust. They curse at me if I blow too hard. and they curse at me if I don't blow enough. It seems like the giant is right." The giant started chuckling to himself. But then the wind said, "But my sister, the river, flows by the people's houses. She knows them better than I do." So the boy and the giant traveled to the river at the bottom of the valley. And the boy said, "River, I found this giant trapped inside a bottle. I set him free, and now he wants to eat me for his supper. And that's not fair. And I don't care. River, you flow from the mountains to the sea, past houses and farms and cities. Tell this boy, people always repay kindness with evil." The river said, "I am good to the people. I clean them and I nourish them. I make their fields grow green. I let them travel on my water. But they waste my water. They clog me with mud. They pour evil fluids into me. It seems like the giant is right." The giant started to laugh aloud. But then the river said, "But my brother the mountain is older than I am. Let him decide." So the boy and the giant climbed to the top of the mountain. The boy said, "Mountain, I set this giant free when he was trapped in a bottle, and now he wants to eat me, and that's not fair. And I don't care. Mountain, you have stood here since the beginning of time. Hasn't it always been true? People repay kindness with evil." The mountain said, "I am good to the people. I lift up their spirits with my beautiful scenery. From my own body, I give them gold and silver. But they cut down my forest. My face is piled with their trash. Perhaps the giant is right." The giant was shaking with glee. But then the mountain said, "But things are not always as they first seem to be. Before I decide, I must know everything about this. Show me how this whole matter began." So as the mountain watched from above, the boy and the giant traveled back to where the bottle was still lying beside the tree in the forest. The mountain said, "Giant, "Show me how you were inside a bottle." The giant became very tiny and slipped back into the bottle. The mountain said, "Boy, how was the stopper placed in the bottle?" The boy picked up the stopper. He shoved it back into the neck of the bottle. And then the mountain said, "And how was that bottle wedged among the roots of the tree?" The boy returned the bottle to its original place among the roots of the tree. And then he realized something. You realize it too, don't you? The mountain had saved him from the giant. He danced around happily, and then he turned to run home. But he stopped and said, "Oh, wait, that's not fair." He went clear back to the wind's house at the head of the valley and thanked the wind for all the things it had done for people. He went to the bottom of the valley. He thanked the river for her kindness. And he went to the mountaintop and he thanked the mountain. And then he ran home to tell everyone what had happened that day and what he had learned that day. But whether all the people understand what that boy learned, sometimes I have to wonder. Don't you?